I think is pretty radical for most of us, and that is every single problem that a human being has is right here.
Yes.
And there's no problem out there. And so real problems are problems of limiting beliefs, meaning, understanding, the way I'm thinking about something.
Good morning, good afternoon, and g'day. This is the Connekt Unplugged podcast, number 67, my gosh, with Kallum, Hock, Conor, Healy, and the guest of the hour is international NLP pioneer, master trainer, author, Mr. Michael Hall, zooming in all the way from Colorado in the US, and Cal will share a little bit more about you to our viewers.
Thanks, Conor, and thank you for coming back, Michael. Michael is the founder of Neuro Semantics, a prolific author who has just finished his 77th book, I believe, and a true architect of modern NLP thinking. His work has shaped how coaches, therapists, and leaders and organizations around the world understand meaning, mindset, and human change at a structural level, not just as techniques, but a living system. What sets Michael apart is his relentless curiosity. Even after decades of contribution, he continues to question assumptions, refine models, and push the field forward. Most recently, thoughts through his work on the structure of problems and rapid problem-solving conversations. This is not just a surface-level conversation today. I'm looking forward to getting deep into things. So if you're an NLP expert, you're going to absolutely love this. This is about how problems are created, how meaning shapes reality, and how single conversations, when structured well, can change everything. Michael, welcome to the Unplugged podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, welcome. So you travel all around the world. You write books. You publish books. Last time we spoke until now, the major focus of you and yourself has been. Did you say it was the 5 minute
Manager?
5 minute manager or 5 minute conversation?
We would love to know more about that. What is the 5 minute manager, and can it be so simple?
I'd love to know even further.
So taking off from what Ken Blanchard did in 1983 when he wrote the 1 minute manager, and his idea in that simple little book was 1 minute you could do some praising of someone to reinforce what they're doing well, catch them doing something well, and praise them. 1 minute feedback. If they're not doing something quite correct, just give them some feedback to correct it in real time. Take 1 minute to do that. And he had 1 minute corrections, or he called them 1 minute reprimands. 1 minute to get someone who's really on the wrong track back on track. So he wrote 9 books on the 1 minute manager. The 1 minute manager meets the monkey was 1989. And that was the closest he came to dealing with problems.
Right.
So in all his books, he never did the 1 minute manager for the problem.
So he wrote 9 books on the 1 minute manager.
Right.
That not be the 9 minute manager?
Yeah, you would think. So when he wrote the 1 minute manager meets the monkey, the whole little book was about whose problem is it? Is it yours, or is the monkey on someone else's back? And for the manager, apparently he wanted to help managers to not take on the problems of employees, but to help them to solve those problems. So the whole little book is, it's your problem, it's not mine, go solve it. But he provided not one word about how to do that.
Yes.
And in your work, working with organizations, working with training thousands of tens of thousands of coaches, practitioners, the framing of the problem, it's very, you've hit the nail on the head. Kallum and I do public work and corporate work, and giving someone the skills. What they find so refreshing about us is that when we come in, we give problem solving skills. We don't just crack the whip and say, go make more money or go overcome this. There's a framework and skills that come with it. when did you sort of pick that up and realize, hang on, there's a massive gap here between telling someone what to do and actually showing them how to do it? Hi there, this is Conor and Kallum from Connekt Coaching. Hope you are enjoying the Unplugged podcast. Nothing lights us up more than seeing businesses thrive, especially in uncertain times. We have 32 combined years of doing nothing but mentoring and training businesses from around the globe in order to increase their revenue and thrive in uncertain times. So what we would like to do is share with you a little bit about what we've discovered over the last 32 years.
We've created this amazing business model called the Forever Business Model, and we want to give it to you for free. All you need to do is jump down into the description below. There's a link there called Steal Our Forever Business Model. Click on the link. There's a 9-minute video that you can watch where we unpack everything you need to know to implement it in your business right away.
Well, that's in one way that's built into NLP.
It is.
In NLP, we try to empower people so that they run their own brain, manage their own state, and learn how to solve their own problems so that we don't make people dependent on us. So what you're doing is just at the very heart of true NLP.
Yes.
False NLP, we got a lot of fake NLP. They try to be the guru who has all the answers, and that doesn't really help people because then they have to keep coming back to you as a guru.
Correct.
And so, in one way, that's what you're describing is right at the heart of NLP. 2 years ago, we decided to take a bunch of managers and put them through the coach training and to see if the coach training would give them the skills they needed to solve the problems. And the good thing about that training was it failed. It failed because they didn't want to be coaches. They wanted to be managers. So while they needed some coach skills like rapport and support and asking questions and being able to listen, while they needed some of those, they mostly wanted just to help people solve problems so they could get on with the business of being effective and productive. And so out of that came my question of what is the structure of a problem?
This brings up an interesting point because I've been having a read of some of your email blasts lately. And if you're not on the mailing list, I would highly recommend getting on Michael's Neuron mailing list. It's fantastic. A lot of people talk about problems like they're normalizations. They talk about them like they're a thing. And they're actually, a process. There's structure to it. There's meaning attributed to it. So I think, for our audience, and I've seen this in people who are practicing NLP and using it, maybe after practitioner or after the master practitioner trainings, they don't always know how to distinguish the difference between content and structure. And I found that your description of what the process, the structure, and the things to look out for actually are, I found that really insightful. So would you mind speaking to that and sharing some?
Oh, yes. That's a good one, Cal.
So, and I made this mistake years ago when I wrote a little book called Creative Solutions. In the book, I called a number of things problems that I now know are not problems.
Okay.
So the biggest one, and we all do it, is that there's a condition out in the world, something outside of my skin that I just don't like. Maybe something's not working the way it's supposed to work. A car's not working, or the heater in the house or the air conditioner's not working. And so we call that a problem. Actually, it's just a condition. It's a situation. And it only becomes a problem when I, in my mind, don't like it and I want something different. So a problem starts, and this is where the word problemo, to throw something in front of something that blocks me from achieving an outcome, I have to have an outcome. So if I don't have an outcome, there's no problem.
No problem.
So the person eating ice cream, a gallon of ice cream every night before bed, if that person doesn't want to lose weight, no problem.
It's like meaning the problem isn't out there. It's the way that we attribute meaning to something, and
Yeah.
that leads to that is the problem that I creates negative thinking, creates limiting beliefs,
Discomfort.
It's the difference between wanting something, I think you said, and not wanting something is how
Exactly. Yeah. So that brings up something that I think is pretty radical for most of us. And that is every single problem that a human being has is right here.
Yes.
And there's no problem out there. And so real problems are problems of limiting beliefs, meanings, understanding, the way I'm thinking about something, and that I might be misunderstanding it or giving it too wrong of meanings or too distorted meanings or too generalized meanings, or in some way, I'm just not thinking correctly about it. And now I've got a problem here that's a block from me being effective and productive.
So would it, in that thinking, in theory, not that you would want to live your life this way, if you just went with the flow all the time and changed direction whenever things became a problem, and you always had no problem, would there be a problem with that?
Yeah, there'd be a problem with. We need problems.
Yeah.
So that's the backside of this. A human being is not truly, fully functioning if we don't have a problem to work on, which is why everybody gets puzzles and games and all sports are about, let's create a problem and then solve it. Because that's what makes it fun being a human being and to be creative. And so we need problems. And so a problem arises when what I see out in the world, I see something that could be better. I could improve the quality of my life, the lives of other people. And with that goal, with that vision, now I got a problem. And so one of the things I like to say when we do this training is, may you have big, glorious problems. Because the bigger the problem, the more the money. And the bigger the problem, the more the creativity.
Right. So coming back a little bit to the structure, can you describe that in a bit more detail? Because it is multi-layered. I mean, we've got the level of content, the level of meaning, and, Dr. Tad James, who we work closely with, used to attribute a lot of it to prime concerns, which is not being able to be, do, or have something. And they were kind of those primordial forces of starting, changing, or stopping things. Is that kind of tying in logically to what you're talking about?
So when it comes to a problem, I identified 4 things that are outside of the real problem, but are caused by the real problem. Right. So obviously symptoms. Every symptom I have, especially an emotional symptom or a psychosomatic symptom, every symptom I have indicates that there's a problem, but it's not the problem.
Right.
Although we call it a problem, if someone is quick to anger and they have and they're always shooting off their mouth and creating distress in relationships, obviously that's a problem, but it's symptomatic. Because if I can get the person to be quiet, not yell at people, not curse, if I can get them to do that, but their thinking is still the same as their thinking, I haven't really solved the problem. I've just put a Band-Aid on the symptom.
Right.
So symptoms are problematic, but they're not the problem. And so that's another thing we call a problem that really isn't.
Symptoms are often, based on where we're going, symptoms are often problems for other people.
Yeah, they can.
So just thinking about, there was a question that we would ask from time to time. If someone doesn't believe they have the problem, but someone else has the problem, who of that behavior, of the symptom, who has the problem?
Well, the person who doesn't want that other person's symptoms now has a goal that they want this person to be different.
Yes.
And so they want to change. So now they've got a problem in addition to the other person having a problem.
And if the original problem person is not problem aware, do they have to be problem aware?
Well, if they're going to solve it.
Okay.
If they're going to solve it.
And the recipient of the symptom, I'm trying not to confuse myself here. If the recipient of the symptom, is there a way I'd love to unpack the structure of solving a problem. Is there structure on helping someone realize they have a problem?
Yeah. So those of us who are coaches or consultants or therapists or people come to us because of symptoms.
Yes.
They really don't come to us for the problem. They come because they don't like the symptom. The symptom is now making their life miserable, unpleasant, unable to achieve their goals. They're procrastinating. That might be one of the symptoms. Anyway, they come because of symptoms. And ironically, if we help them to enter into that symptom, and to feel it even more fully, they may be more motivated to move away from that symptom and toward life without that symptom. So that's one of the ways we can help them to do that, to see the symptom and where it's going. Where the symptom is going is a consequence.
Yes.
And consequences is another thing we call a problem. And oftentimes we worry about the consequences of the symptom and the attempted solutions that we have for the problem that don't work. We see it going out sequentially. And so so we've got the external event, we've got the symptom, we've got the consequence, and we've got the context. And those are the 4 external aspects of a problem. And we call those problems, but they're not really. So now we need to go inside and to go to the thinking that's creating the problem. And what I've done is to identify it in 3 levels. So first, second, third level of thinking. The first level is the easiest one to solve because you just change the thinking, the immediate belief or the immediate decision, the immediate understanding, and it's solved. It goes away, it's reframed.
To change the meaning.
Change the meaning. And now the symptom goes away as well. But the second level is where it gets really tricky, and that's where my thinking about my thinking or my thinking about the symptom. So let's say I have a symptom. Let's say something violates my values and I get angry. Then with that anger, I might express it or hold it in. And either way, if I hate my anger, if I feel guilty for my anger, if I shame myself for my anger, if I get angry at my anger, if I get afraid of my anger, if I think identity, I'm just an angry person and it's my nature. Now I've got a second level thought that isn't easily reframed because it's really layered and complex, and it's going to now create a symptom that's much harder to solve. And if it continues over a period of time, it's going to become psychosomatic. It's going to get into the kinesthetics. It'll drive it way down into the unconscious parts of the body. And now the symptom is going to be much more problematic to deal with.
It could be a life belief that someone has all of a sudden. It's like a fire that has lost control. They didn't stamp it out when there was smoke or a few flames. It's now ingrained in their neurology almost.
Yeah. So whenever we take an experience and we don't accept it, so one of the easiest things about any kind of problem solving is, first of all, accepting the problem as it is and identifying what is it really. So if I accept my anger, then the whole thing goes away, because now the question is, what's the best way, if it's legitimate that I have been threatened and it's legitimate and I need to deal with it, what's the best way to do that? And what would be the skills that would help me to be emotionally intelligent and still caring and respectful as I do that? But if I don't accept it, if I reject it, that rejection is really a self-attack. And this is what now is going to create some really toxic states and toxic symptoms. And so this is where the problem, if it's not immediately addressed and taken care of, it'll grow thing.
Yeah,
and
be
become
a
monstrous
massive
to us.
wedge. Yeah, I could see this in relationships. I could see this in the workplace. I could see this with clients who have, and you can have multiple. In fact, you can almost see some people who have multiple problems that have evolved to grow fangs. They
Yeah.
and this is a mind read, but you can almost see physically they look like they have chips on their shoulders that have been there for a very, very long time. You have one conversation with them, and then the tone of their voice is quite aggressive, and it was a very surface level question. Yet the response and almost physically, the physiology that they change. They have frowns on their faces, or they get hunched over, or their mannerisms are very, very different. I can see the long-term consequences of this.
Yeah.
So once we establish it, again, they have to be problem aware. Once they say, I'm ready to make a change, is that the next step?
Yeah. Well, the next step is once we've distinguished it's inside, it's not out. Once we've distinguished it's an inside thought, not a symptom, not a emotional symptom or a physical symptom, it's inside. Then going inside, I like to call it the meta probe.
Okay.
We probe to the first level, we probe to the next level. And the third level that we probe to is an unconscious level, is the assumptive level. What are you assuming? What are you assuming? So some people, have started from some wrong assumptions about life. Everybody is selfish and out for their own. Nobody cares about anybody. So if you start from that assumption, and usually it's unconscious, it's just you grow up in a family where nobody takes care of you, nobody loves you, nobody attends to you, and you have that attachment disorder. And so assumptively, you just live in the world like an animal, taking advantage of everybody you can. Now we've got a much, much deeper symptoms and everything, and it's going to take therapy to deal with that.
Yeah.
For level 2, it takes coaching, and level 1 is really just a quick reframing.
Yeah. It hasn't grown fangs yet.
So when it comes to managers, we don't want them to be coaches at that second level or therapists at that third level. We just want them to quickly be able to help employees get over some of the personal problems that they bring to work. So in this 5-minute manager training, we have 7 questions. And the first question is, starting this dialogue, this conversation, what is the problem? And as a person talks and talks, we're going to hear a lot of symptoms and externals and blaming and accusation. And so we're just beginning the conversation. So when a person talks, their words are windows into their meta layers. So sometimes the very first thing they say is, I can't stand Joan when she rolls her eyes. Well, just using a basic NLP, I can't, multiple operator necessity, impossibility, stand. So now she's got a metaphor of standing or falling. And so just listening to the language, we can hear what they're doing in their mind. And we can work on it. So the first question is, what's the problem? The second question is, what's your goal? Because you can't have a problem unless you have a goal.
Yeah. Because if you don't have a goal, if you're not going anywhere, you have no problems.
Yeah. So what do you want? What do you really want? So this helps to clean out all the noise of complaint and whining and blaming and accusing and just all the things we human beings tend to do. Because a lot of times when a person is reporting a problem, they're not really reporting a problem. They're just whining and complaining. So when you ask them, what do you want? It starts to separate out a lot of that noise.
That could be quite empowering if the person chooses to land on that side of the cause or effect equation. So what is the problem here? So Mary rolls her eyes and that gets under your skin. How, what would you rather have instead? Or what's the goal here? Is that the question you ask?
Yeah. So when she says, I want Mary not to roll her eyes, now we've got a lot to work with.
Yeah.
So is this in your power to make Mary not roll her eyes?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a condition in the world. Mary rolls her eyes and you think that it means she's dismissing your ideas. So you don't want her to do that. So what do you need to do relationally so that she will not do that? Now we come back to what resources you need in order to reach your goal. So the third question is, so what's the problem? What do you want? And the third problem is, in what context? What's the subject? What's the subject that you're talking about? And that one would be relationships. So we need to have a relationship conversation. But it could be an emotional conversation, could be a clarity conversation, a decision conversation, a resource conversation, change conversation. So we want to know, what kind of conversation do you want to have so that you can get what you want and solve this problem? So what kind of conversation? And so we've identified 14 conversations that are pretty typical for solving a problem. And the 14 conversations picks up on what a problem feels like. So if we ask the question, what does this problem feel like to you? Does it feel confusing and disorienting? Well, we need clarity. Does it feel like you're indecisive, can't make up your mind? Everything's a fog? Well, we need a decision conversation. Does it feel like you're out of control, you're helpless, you don't know what to do? Maybe a resource conversation. So I've made a list of the feelings of a problem, and corresponded them to the kind of conversation we need to have. So then once I know the kind of conversation I want to have.
This is where the how comes in, how you're going to empower your team.
Yeah.
This is great.
Then our fourth question, once we have that, let me see here. You remember our fourth question.
I can really see how you're systematically deconstructing their symptoms. and then at the same time, through questioning, providing them to think of the solutions that they can then embody. And when they create the solutions themselves, they're much more likely to take them on.
Yeah, exactly. So the fourth one is, what are the symptoms? So what are you experiencing? And sometimes they can't answer question number 3. What kind of conversation do you need? So we need to go to question 4. So what are you experiencing? What's the suffering that's going on? What are the symptoms? What else? What else? What else? How bad are they? How long have they been going on? Are you ready to solve it? So by asking about the symptoms, that also separates, that's not the problem. That's just an expression of the problem.
Yeah.
So now we're going to ask question number 5. We're going to ask the same thing as we did number 1. So what is the problem? But now we're doing the meta probe. We're going inside. So what is the construct in your mind, or the representation, or the movie, or the belief, or what's going on in your mind that's the real problem? And so now they get to answer the same question as we started with, but now it should be
On a deeper level.
cleared out of a lot of that noise.
Yeah.
When they give me that, then question number 6 is, what is your question? That's your problem. What's your question? What question could you ask that if you got the answer to that question, it would be the answer to your problem? So if it's Mary is rolling her eyes, well, my problem is, when Mary rolls her eyes, I assume that she's dismissing my ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your question? I guess I need to find out, is she rejecting my ideas? So your question is to Mary, so are you rejecting my ideas when you're rolling the eyes?
So Mary, when you roll your eyes, I just want to be clear. Are you rejecting my ideas?
Yeah.
Who would ask that? I mean, this is so empowering to even give someone enough confidence to even ask that question at a time when traditionally they would feel less than or disempowered.
Because that problem would be a problem of misunderstanding, probably. If she said, yes, I am rejecting your ideas. Well, which ideas specifically are you rejecting? And help me to understand your thinking about why you're rejecting it. So then it's going to have a clarification conversation and see where it goes from there. So oftentimes we take the problem and we just turn it around. What is the question that you're really wanting to ask? And it might be asking yourself, what skills do I need so that I can be a better conversationalist with Mary? So what is the question that once you got the answer to that question, it's going to solve the problem? And then the 7th question is, sometimes at that point, we've got a kind of a superficial answer. And so the 7th question is, what are you assuming that you're not calling into question?
Cool. That'll force someone to think.
What are you assuming? Are you assuming that Mary has to agree with your answer, with your presentation? If you're assuming that she can't have her own way of thinking about it, and she has to agree with you and comply with you with everything, do you really respect her to be her own person?
Wow, this could be a mirror for some people.
So then with those 7 questions, generally we're ready now to ask a critical question. And the critical question is a question that just cuts right through to the meta level that's causing the problem. And by answering that critical question, oftentimes we just solve the problem. So if you had permission for people to roll their eyes or to be angry, if you had permission and you could stay respectful and honoring that person, how much of a problem would this be?
So it really is a systematic approach, and the managers who go through these 7 steps with would a manager go through these 7 steps with their employee?
Yeah. So in our training, we run them through these 7 questions every day, 4 or 5 times with different problems.
Nice.
Different personal problems that employees bring to their managers. They're not external problems like how to fix this gadget or how to make the assembly line go quicker, because that's an external condition that doesn't depend upon a person's attitude or belief. So it's an impersonal problem rather than a personal problem. And by cutting through the noise, and that's one of our that's our second day of training, cutting through the noise, and asking the question that puts the person at cause and helps them to now identify how to solve their problem. Then the managers can more quickly recognize what to ask. That's going to empower the employee.
I could imagine you do this once, maybe twice with an employee, they'll stop coming to you with their problems because they'll start solving it themselves.
Yeah.
They'll realize that this is my projection. Okay, well, yeah, what am I assuming here? Which is making me feel less than or disempowered.
I'm going to ask my wife to do something for a moment. Could you lower because I think the sun is coming in and.
Oh, the beautiful sun.
Yeah.
I like the question. I like what. After you, Cal. I was going to say the 1, 2, 3, level 1, level 2, level 3. I was curious. My little mind said, how would a manager determine, or how does someone determine whether it's a level 1, level 2, level 3 problem?
So the symptoms of level 1 are immediately connected to the thought. So if I have fear in my body and I'm afraid, and I ask, what are you afraid of? And the thing is, I'm afraid I'll make a mistake. So if I ask, do you have permission to make a mistake? Well, no. Well, if you go in and give yourself permission, that it's just information.
That's such a good question. I may make a mistake, or do you have permission to make a mistake? No, I don't. Can you give yourself permission? Okay. All right. I'll go forward and I'll fail forward fast, or, there is no failure. There's only feedback. That's such a good one. You have permission to make a mistake.
And so if the person goes in and says, okay, I gave myself permission to make a mistake, it's just learning. I'll learn from this and go better. How much fear do you have in your body now? It's gone.
Done. Yeah. So good.
Symptoms at the first level immediately respond to a change of thought, a reframe or a change of belief or a change of decision or understand whatever. And so the manager would know that I can handle this. If it's at the second level, it's thought about a thought and the spinning around, then he would know now's the time to refer this to a coach, because this is going to take more than 5 minutes. This is going to take a session, and now he can refer.
Got it.
Yeah.
Tissues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Abraham Maslow addressed this when he separated personal problems from the problems of the world, and he said once you solve your own problems, and you've gotten clear about you're a human being, you have emotions, you can manage your own thoughts, you can apologize when you make a mistake, you can look to other people for support and resources. Once you solve these problems and you're pretty much okay with yourself, now let me take on the problems that I want to solve in the world that's going to really change the world and create great businesses, productivity, wealth. And so taking on those problems. Well, since I've worked in the field of psychology, the problems I've taken on have been psychological problems. Like what's the structure resilience? I took on wealth creation. If you're going to be a millionaire, you got to think like a millionaire. So how does a millionaire think? And so I've taken on those kinds of psychological problems so as to identify the structure of here's how the experts do it. And so, the basic NLP modeling process, here's how we model that kind of expertise, and whether it's learning or decision-making or leadership or those kinds of problems.
My ears just pricked up when you said the structure of resilience. Kallum and I, we work with people in order to build and grow primarily their NLP and coaching and training businesses. And resilience is something that we talk a lot about.
Yeah.
I would love to know your thoughts on the structure of resilience, because in any endeavor of growth, resilience, from what I understand, is your ability to bounce back, and grit is your long-term perseverance. Dr. Angela Duckworth from Pennsylvania University has done some great work on grit, and grit's sort of your long-term staying power, and resilience is your ability to bounce back up. I would love to have your thoughts on the structure of resilience. I mean, pending the time we have today, obviously, if you have, you could share some.
So I did my resilience study from 1990 to 94. So I spent 4 years interviewing people who had been resilient, who had bounced back from being in emotional hell. And so I started with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 steps of grief, because the first thing that happens is people get go into the emotional roller coaster stage. They're denying it, they're bargaining, they're angry, they're depressed, and they finally get to acceptance. So I came up with like 7 stages, and the first stage is the emotional roller coaster stage, and it doesn't end until you get to acceptance.
Yeah.
So why not just go there and start there?
Start with acceptance.
So start with acceptance. Okay, my world has fallen apart. I've been fired. I have a health crisis. I have bankruptcy. I just accept it. Now let's get on to the coping stage. You've got to rebuild your world. You got to cope. You need some resources. So let's go into the coping stage. Cope until you can normalize things. Once you get into the normalizing, now you've got life back together again. You've got some dreams and hopes, and you've done your grief work. And now let's do some mastering. Let's not just survive and normalize. Let's master it. So the mastering stage. And the mastering stage is when you are not just getting by, but you're thriving. And once you're thriving, then you're close to being back. So those were the stages of resilience. And the key to resilience, the key to not being traumatized by the bad event, whatever that event is, are three attitudes. One is it's about me, so they personalize it. The other one is it's everywhere. It's about everything about me. Everything in life sucks. So pervasive, and then time-wise permanent. So personal, pervasive, permanent are the three P's that creates the traumatization. And when we reverse them, it's not about me, it's about that. It's not everywhere, it's just about that, then, and it's then, not everywhere. So that, there, then are the three magical words that reverses the traumatization. And getting people out of the traumatization, now they can start coping and mastering and thriving.
This is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. We do a lot of work with also sales professionals, and if you're in sales, you get no's all day. And you have to sort of create that coping mechanism. Otherwise you won't last. You'll take it too personally and you'll beat yourself up every day, and it's obviously not very healthy. Could you see a way to accelerate that, or maybe, I'm not saying shorten or take any steps out, but could you accelerate that and do it in a 5-minute process? Let's say you had an expectation that there was a big deal that was going to come in and it didn't, and you feel, oh, that sucks. Could you accelerate that in a 5-minute process, and then bang, I'm back to being my empowered, enthusiastic self?
Yeah, it'd be the same. It'd be basically the same structure. The deal is out there. And as you keep it out there, what you're thinking about it, what your beliefs and understandings and do you accept it? And that's where a lot of people don't understand that acceptance is just acknowledgement. It's not condoning or approving. It's just acknowledgement. And so if you will acknowledge that, then let's talk about what resources you need to be able to deal with that. Is this just part of the game of selling?
I like the three P's: personal, pervasive, and permanent.
Permanent.
Okay, I like that.
And interesting enough, the opposite is that, there, then. That, there, then.
And then it was just then. Yeah.
And so all of this is in the book I wrote on resilience, being the Phoenix.
I'm going to write that down.
And
that was, you said the early 90s? Was that published?
I'll send both of you a copy of the book.
Wow.
A PDF file copy.
Yeah. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll send that to you. Yeah. Well, there's several paradoxes. One paradox, you got to get money out of your eyes in order to see it clearly, because it's not about money. It's about adding value to people, because we get paid when we add value. So it's not about money, which is one of the paradoxes. The more you forget about the money, the more the money will come. The more you're worried about money and concerned about money, the more you get stingy and having a scarcity mentality. And then and then it just ruins everything. On neurosemantics.com in our shop, we've got something I took from Thomas Stanley, The Millionaire Next Door and The Millionaire Mind. I've got a questionnaire for thinking like a millionaire. It's a free document that's on the shop, and it's called The Millionaire Mind Questionnaire. And it just starts asking the kind of questions that helps to reveal what that kind of thinking really is.
And the website is Neuro Semantics, Neuro. I'm just writing it in the chat of the live. So anyone watching now or at any point in the future, go to this website that I'm about to put there. Get this what would you call it?
It's a questionnaire.
And also have a look around and everything else that Michael has and the Phoenix. As well. So Neuro, Neuro Semantics, Semantics.
Yes.
And that's .com.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. Perfect. That's out there for all the listeners as well. So a great question, Kallum, with the mindset. So what you shared was basically look at ways to, the higher the value of the problem you can solve, the more money you get paid. And at the same time, you have to be, your focus is on solving the problem, not making the money. Is that?
Yeah. Right. So one of the questions I ask when we do the Inside Out Wealth training is, who are you going to take with you when you become a millionaire or a billionaire? Because when Steve Jobs, when Bill Gates became a billionaire, and was on #1 richest person in the world on Forbes list, the second richest person on that list was his vice president. The third person on that list was his other vice president. The fourth person on that list was his other vice president. So the idea is nobody gets wealthy alone.
Yeah.
It's a collaborative process. And if you don't know how to collaborate with people and you're just trying to push everybody away so that you can get what you want, it's just not going to work. That's not the mindset. The mindset is, who's going to go with me and share in all of this abundance that we're creating?
You know what? That's a mic drop moment right there. I think there are a lot of people who only look out for themselves, and they come from a lack mentality, and they don't have I mean, it sounds so cliche, but a prosperous mindset. In order for you, like, what's that expression? You're the average of the 5 people around you. So if you're taking from the 5 people around you, you're lowering the average by definition. You have to empower and enrich the 5 around you, because by definition, it's that expression that we use all the time. A rising tide lifts all boats. And I guess that's what you have to create, that environment for those around you to prosper, so that by definition, you will prosper at the same time, because you're smack bang in the middle of that.
It's one of the other paradoxes of wealth creation.
Make those around you wealthy, and you'll become. I learned, it was one of my early, a fleeting thought that I had early on in my sort of sales career, and it sort of I've just connected the dots in my head, because I came from a service and hotel management background, which was very service orientated. So it was doing things for people as such. And when I got into sales, it was okay. It's now the buck stops with me, and it's up to me in order to create. And in my head, I thought the easiest way to make a lot of money is to help other people make money, because if you can help a lot of people make money, they'll always have space for you on their round table.
Yeah.
And they'll pay you a lot of money to help them make more money. And that's Anyway, I'm just having a little aha moment by myself here. Based on this conversation. Brilliant. I love that. Cal, do you have a question there, buddy? I saw your mouth move, but I didn't hear anything.
I didn't quite catch the question. No. Yeah, I made a list some years ago of 7 paradoxes. To ask me to remember those right now, I don't recall the other one, but there are several paradoxes there.
I'm just writing this down here because I will find it on your website.
It's in the book, Inside Out Wealth.
And we can get that on your website?
Yeah.
All right, nice one. Perfect. So, Inside Out Wealth.
So I guess another paradox is to be wealthy on the outside, that is to have money and possessions and things, you have to first be wealthy on the inside, because it's going to come from creative thoughts and the way you care about people and the way you care about whatever it is that you're focusing on and adding value to. So first you have to be wealthy inside. If you've got a scarcity mentality, that lacking mentality, and we've all met someone who needed to make a sale, and we didn't, most of us could feel the desperation coming.
The neediness. Yeah.
And that's just, the worst thing for any salesperson is to be in a state of neediness. They need to get out of that state. Don't go sell when you're in that state.
What state should they be in?
Well, a state of really excitement about the value that I have with this product, this service, this information. Just excited about it, and whether you see it or not, whether you see it now or not, my privilege is to share it with you. And if you don't, if it's not for you, then I don't want to sell it to you. But if it's for you, then here's some reasons why. But make up your own mind.
Yeah. I like that. Here are some reasons why. But it's completely up to you. We've all been turned off. Even if we've walked into a shop wanting to buy a new fridge, we had our mind set to buy a new fridge, but the person we were talking with just felt they were overselling it, and it felt desperate, and we felt it feels like that. Even though I want to buy this fridge, it just feels like there's something wrong with this fridge. Why are they pushing on us too hard?
Yeah.
And then you end up not buying it. And then on the flip side, you can walk into a store maybe thinking, oh, I may need a fridge in the next year. And I did that. In fact, I did that last week. I was going to buy a guitar for my birthday. We were driving through a town about 2 hours from where we live. And I said to my wife, Mandy, can we just stop in on this into this music store? I promise it won't be more than 10 minutes. I just want to pick up a couple guitars to trial them. And an hour later, we walked out with my brand new guitar. We had no intention of buying, went over budget, but the person selling was courteous, and he didn't need to sell. But so then I wanted to buy, and he created the space, and he did it seamlessly. And it was an opportunity for us, or for me, to look at a great sale in motion, is that the person doesn't feel like they're being sold to.
Yeah.
It feels like a natural decision to make to buy. Love this. Yeah. So the 5-minute manager, it's a book and a training, or is it?
It's a training right now, and I have written the book, and it'll be out before too long. But it's a training right now where usually it takes me 3 or 4 presentations to really work through all the bugs and just get it really smooth and streamlined. So we're hoping to do that this year.
Awesome. And the 5-minute manager is taught in person in Colorado. Is it in Colorado? I know you do work in Egypt. You're a globetrotter trainer.
Yeah. Throughout this year, we'll do it. We'll do it in Mauritius. We'll do it in the Philippines. We'll do it back in Hong Kong, We'll do it probably somewhere in Indonesia. So we've got several places where we'll be doing it this year.
Incredible. You know what? I forget sometimes just how much of an impact you've had in the NLP field. You got in the early 80s, I think, maybe even before then. I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
You
mid
wrote
80s.
77 books in the field, and you have a graduate alumni network that spans every single continent, and you have just a depth of knowledge that is unmet by nearly everyone that we've come across. And so, how can someone find out when the next 5-minute manager is coming up?
If they join the Neurons e-group newsletter, we put out information on that as to where the next trainings are going to be. Sometimes we have the trainings listed on the website.
And how would one get on your email list?
If they go to neurosemantics.com, there's a place where it says sign up for Neurons. It's free.
Okay, awesome. Everyone listening, especially those in the NLP field, sign up right now. Go to www.neurosemantics.com and get on the list. Kallum and I are on the list. We get, and all of, you can tell when you're on a list written, and it's written by the author versus written by AI. And the content we get from Michael is high level, and you can tell it's written with the personality of Michael, and the way it's written makes it very easy to read. And I think there are very few people in the world who actually have that depth of knowledge that they can share so much of their own work instead of needing AI help. So anyway, jump on.
So one of the things I'd like to say about that is the allocates that you're giving to me, I don't really feel I deserve it at all. I just feel like I fell in love with NLP. I learned NLP. I learned the meta model and the meta programs, and I learned the model, and the model is just coming out.
Yes.
And that if people would just be true to the NLP models, it would change their lives. And the worst thing is when an NLP person gets bored and thinks, I need to get some of this stuff over here and bring it in. I'll bring this in, and they contaminate it. And I think the ability to be as effective as I can be and productive has just resulted from being true to the one model and just letting it really touch all aspects of my life.
Yeah, and it we've worked with what am I trying to musicians. We worked with musicians who played the violin their entire life, and one line stood out, and it was, you don't play the violin plays you. And what you're saying, it sounds very similar, but with NLP, you know, you're not consciously analyzing everything in your head. You've embodied it so much in your neurology, and it just flows and comes through you. And amazing. So if anyone would like to work with you, train with you, buy any of your books, go to the neurosemantics.com, jump on the email list, and work with Michael. Kallum, you there, buddy? Absolutely. Oh, by the way, anyone who is joining the ANLP annual association event next year, when is it? Is it February? And it's this year. It's actually this year. Gosh.
Yeah.
When is it coming up? Is it? I don't even know when it's coming up.
Well, the actual conference will be in May.
In May, that's right.
Yeah.
Michael will be showcasing some of his skills there as well. So if you can make it, join and take part in that event as well.
Yeah. I'll be doing what they call a masterclass February 7th. It's a Zoom masterclass. It's in preparation for the actual conference.
Yes. Okay. I think I'm going to be part. I'll be watching the masterclass. So anyone, if you're in the NLP field, go to www.anlp.org. I think it's anlp.org. And become a member. And there are so many member benefits that you can come across. It's an incredible NLP community. And there are master classes like this one with Michael happening on a very regular basis. So it's becoming I don't know, I see it as a really, really fantastic hub, or a global hub of NLP. And while we're on the NLP, topic, where do you, I mean, you've been in this field for 40 years now, maybe more. Where do you see it? Where do you see it going?
Well, I think we're at a real crossroads, and we've been at a crossroads for a number of years with people trying to reduce NLP to, a 5-day practitioner or a 3-day practitioner. And really, we should be going in the opposite direction, because as more things are developed in the field of NLP, there's more to it than there was in 1980 or 1990 or 2000. The field has been growing, and we're at a crossroads. And I think the problem of the pandemic and people doing everything by Zoom and by online has really undermined the very key of NLP, which is experiential learning. Because I really don't think, I write books, but you can't really learn it from a book. You learn it experientially, and ideally with someone who knows what they're talking about. That it has to be experiential, because if it's not in your body, if it's not in your way of being, if it's just academic, then you haven't really learned it, because it isn't an experiential model. And it came from those people. It came from Chris Pearls and Virginia Satir and Milton, who had incorporated, and the way they were in the world was the secret, that the experiential. So I think we're at a real crossroads for it. The thing I've worked on for the last 2 or 3 years is thinking. So looking at NLP as a communication model, I started asking the question, what is more fundamental than communication? And the answer I came up with was thinking. Because the quality of your thinking is going to be the quality of your communicating.
Yeah.
And you could learn all kinds of great communication skills, but if your thinking is flawed, the communication will be flawed.
And execute. Yeah.
So I've written 11 books on thinking: executive thinking, strategic thinking, humorous thinking, metaphorical thinking, predictive thinking. So I've delved into thinking as the most fundamental thing we as human beings do. Is what the mind does. And it seems to me it's the distinction between the brain and the mind.
If someone doesn't think, then they don't communicate. If someone can't think, if they've had a brain injury, the first thing that goes is their communication.
Yeah. And the most fundamental thing we do is think. We work over an idea in our mind. But most people are not good thinkers. Most people are at best mediocre, and a great many people are poor thinkers. And so this goes back to the meta model. I don't think the meta model is about communication. I think it's about thinking. Because if you're generalizing everything and that's your thinking style, you're going to miss all the details, the critical details that make all the difference. And if you're deleting the details or distorting it, then you're not going to be thinking very much.
Yes, you get a.
So the other training I'm doing a lot of is we call it Thinking for Humans, and it's just a 3-day training on 15 thinking skills. And the first day is critical thinking skills. The second day is creative thinking skills. And the third day is executive thinking skills. and helping people be better thinkers.
Fascinating. So creative, critical, or critical, creative, and then executive.
Uh-huh.
And that's a 3-day. And you travel around the world teaching this as well?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I am, from a timing perspective, are you good for time? Because
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll keep going. Cal, I think his internet wasn't terribly crash out this morning. So hopefully he comes back. What I like about a lot of your work is that you always look at it and it seems so logical to do this, but not everyone does. You look at it from the outside perspective, but then you also look at it from the inside perspective, and then you ask yourself, is this an outside problem or is this an inside problem? And I think in saying that, what are some mistakes that someone who hasn't been taught how to solve a problem, what are some mistakes that people have or that you've come across who try to solve problems but haven't got the right thinking? What are some common mistakes? How would I know that I'm not solving a problem in the most efficient or effective way?
So one of the things about the brain, and it's just the way it's wired, so it's one of the biases of the brain, is when there's a problem, something's not going right, not going well, something's going astray, we have a natural tendency to want to solve it that quick. Fix it.
Yeah.
Do something. And sometimes that's the worst thing because we're solving the wrong problem. We don't know what we're doing really. We're really taking care of a symptom, the distress that we feel because something
we just want to
is threatening.
Do everything we can to get out of this discomfort. I don't care what it is. I just want to do something to get out of this, like a shoot from the hip, knee-jerk reaction to solving the problem.
Exactly. So that's probably the biggest mistake of problem solvers who just jump in without thinking it through and knowing, is this the real problem? So they end up putting Band-Aids on lots of symptoms, but the problem keeps coming back.
Yes. And how would I know if I'm Band-Aiding versus thinking it through or solving the problem?
So the key evidence would be, does the problem get solved or is it just delayed? And so if it keeps coming back and you say, I thought I solved this, then you put a Band-Aid on it.
So if the pain keeps coming back, you obviously haven't solved the problem. And most people will just keep putting Band-Aids on as opposed to thinking and finding the ways to.
So the other side of that is the person who the problem comes up and they want to run. So they either run inside and don't see it and avoid it, or they deny it, or they blame and they accuse and they put it somewhere else. And so that's the other common way that we solve problems, by denying it's a problem. At least a problem for me.
It's like putting your head in the sand, the emu effect or the ostrich effect. Amazing. And lastly, and this is one that Kallum and I always love asking. Everyone's motivated from time to time, and then we're always told that we should have meaning behind it. What would you say that having motivation is good? You need motivation in order to create something in life. Could you sort of unpack the difference between meaning and motivation?
Well, so motivation, if I go back to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of drives, it comes from our needs. It comes either from the lower needs, the deficiency needs, and those drives are trying to satisfy a basic need that we all have, survival or safety or social or self needs. And when you satisfy them truly and adequately, they go away.
When you satisfy the need goes away. Like hunger. I think you're about to say hunger.
Like hunger, like sleep, like if you satisfy it truly and adequately. If you don't satisfy it truly, and you're trying to get love by eating, then the drive never goes away, but it becomes a neurotic drive, a neurotic need.
So someone who has an eating disorder, who eats, and at the unconscious level, at the deepest level, they're actually feeding their love?
Well, if they've connected that. So if growing up, they were loved because mom gave them sweets or cooked something special for them. I love you so much. Here's this food. And the two things get associated.
Yes. Yeah. I could see that's pardon the pun, a recipe for something. And meaning. And so that's motivation.
So motivation comes from drives. And so the question is it lower drives, the deficiency drives, or is it the being drives, the meta drives? Maslow talked about knowledge and meaning and purpose and contribution and giving and beauty and order and excellence. And these are being drives. And when you satisfy those, they don't go away. The drive doesn't go away. It grows. So the more knowledge you get, the more knowledge you want. The more music you get, the more music you want. The more beauty you have, the more beauty, because your capacity grows. So in both instances, the meaning we give to that drive determines the instinct that we live.
Okay.
And so we all have these drives, and they never go away. As soon as I satisfy my sleep or my hunger drive, the next day, here they are again. And if I've developed lifestyle so that I have a lifestyle way of handling it, then it's not a problem.
So the major difference is that, how would I know if it's a need-based or a meaning-based, I guess, is that if I have it, do I want more of it when my cup's full? In a way, like hunger, you mentioned hunger. So when I'm full, I no longer feel hungry. So that need is no longer there. But if I'm knowledge, I've read a book that I've thoroughly enjoyed. The next day, I want to read another one. Or how would I know if it's on what level it's at?
So Maslow called these the D and the B drives. So the D drives, because they're driven by deficiency, when you satisfy them truly and adequately, they go away.
Okay.
And then it's not a problem because you have worked out.
Such as hunger?
Yeah.
So it goes away and then it will come back, but it still comes from a place of deficiency, something that you lack or you don't. Okay.
Right. But once you have the knowledge of how to satisfy it truly and adequately, you know how to cope with it. Knowing how to cope with it, you can create the habits of life and just set up the structure of your life so that it never really becomes a problem. So very little of your time is going to be worried about, do I have enough to eat?
Right.
Or do I have enough air to breathe? Or can I make friends? Because it's like you've solved that problem.
Got it. Okay.
Whereas with the B needs, there'll always be that dissatisfaction. More. And it's what creates passion.
And coming back to the inside out wealth, I mean, I'm maybe connecting dots that may not be there, but someone who wants to create more wealth, like you look at someone who has a jet and a Rolls Royce and car, houses and cars, and you think, why would they want more? What is their drive? And is this where this sort of plugs into there?
Yeah. So there would be healthy and unhealthy wealth. If the wealth is just for me, it's probably pretty unhealthy. And that's why a lot of very wealthy people have such a hard time. What am I going to do in my legacy? Do I give all this to the kids?
Yeah.
Will that spoil them? Will they have any drive? Will they? So having a being drive for giving it to other people, giving it to causes that you really believe in, then it becomes a healthy, I want more so that I can give more.
Give more, yeah. Okay. And then we come back to the conversation we had earlier, which is prosper those around you, and then you become prosperous. Kallum's internet obviously hasn't picked up. So on behalf of Kallum and myself, Michael and the Unplugged and the Connekt community, we would just love to thank you so much for coming back onto the podcast. You have an incredibly well-rounded and gifted mind that we could spend 3 weeks talking with and learning from you. And I really felt the podcast today, I personally got so much out of it and that I can apply straight away. And I know the listeners would have as well. And I strongly encourage everyone who's watching, everyone who's listening, on the chat right now, it's a link to Michael's website. Get on the email list. There's so much amazing content that comes out, knowledge. And you see, what Kallum and I have been, now with the rise of AI, knowledge is, you can get knowledge in an instant. I can type into ChatGPT and get knowledge in an instant.
Yeah.
It's the wisdom that you can't get from ChatGPT. And people say, what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom? And my favorite metaphor of this is, knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it into a fruit salad. And I think in today's world, we'll have knowledge anywhere we want. It's the wisdom that we'll actually be seeking. And we feel that you have a lot of wisdom that you give in your work. So thank you very much for joining us, Michael. And we wish you all the best. Thank you very much for watching the Unplugged podcast with Kallum and Conor from Connekt Coaching. Hope you loved this guest this week as much as we did. Cal?
What we wanted to remind you of is that if you wanted to steal our forever business model, which is perfect for all sorts of businesses around the world, to start to build extra revenue in your business right away, get instant access by clicking on the description and going into the link below, watching the 9-minute video where we unpack everything. See you next time.